So the big question of the day, what is 5D? Now, before I explain what 5D is, I'm going to go into what 3D is, and then 4D, and then 5D. So 3D being the three-dimensional world that we all live in, it's the physical world, the material world, what many refer to as the matrix. So what that means is it is very much ego-based. It is very much based on the physical experiences that we have here on Earth. So just physical stimulations are what drives the three-dimensional world. And that is the frequency that the vast majority of the world vibrates at. So this means your value is basically measured by your level of material success. For an example, maybe the house that you have, the car that you drive, the type of career you have, the type of spouse you have, how many kids you have. These are things that are part of the physical world that people either strive for. These are the successes they look for in the physical world. It's very, very physically stimulating in that world. So there's a distinct divide between physical and spiritual when we're talking strictly about the three-dimensional world. It is a world where people live their lives as though they are a human being with a spiritual experience in the background. They have a soul, and then their soul just carries on when they die, but really their entire experience is all about their physical being. And that is a three-dimensional way of thinking. That is a three-dimensional lower vibrational way of living. So, and that's not an insult when we say lower vibrations. It is just the level that we are operating from. We're born into a physical world, and we're here to connect our physical with our spiritual, with source, and remember really who we are, where we in the light beings that we are, and where we come from. So then we move on to 4D, and what does that mean? So 4D is the start of an awakening from 3D. It is when, and there's a lot of people that are shifting into 4D pretty rapidly, because what happens is the more people wake up, the more we raise the collective vibration of the earth, of the planet, and then more people continue to wake up. So they're feeding off of that energy, they're feeding off of that vibration, so it creates this domino effect, slowly but surely, more and more are waking up. So what that means, slipping into a 4D reality, or rather ascending to a 4D reality, is when you start to wake up and you realize you are more than just a body. You are a soul having a physical experience. You were meant to come here. You incarnated here specifically. It was your choice. You wanted to have these experiences. You wanted to remember. You wanted to face the challenges. You wanted to face your karma. You wanted to whatever it is. You wanted to have this experience here in a physical form, but the idea is to connect the two. So in a 4D transition, what happens with people when they start to realize that they are more than just the physical is they also start to realize that they can create their reality based on the intentions that they put forward, based on their words, based on their beliefs, based on how they treat each person in the world. So people start to wake up and they realize, oh, my good intentions come back to me. So that's that 4D awakening, where you start to realize that, and then you start to probably get more into meditation, or you probably were already getting into it, and that's probably what brought you to the 4D reality in some cases. But you start to feel a pull towards that, become more drawn to things like meditation, connecting with nature, connecting with your higher self, connecting with more like-minded beings. So this starts to happen. And a lot of times when this happens and you surrender to this new wealth of knowledge, you start to receive downloads. So you start to receive messages. So whether it's from your higher self, whether it's from ETs, whatever it might be, whatever you're connecting with, your starseed family, you do start to get downloads for the most part once you open yourself up to it. So this is a 4D transition from a 3D existence, and it can be very traumatic for a lot of people. It's a big transition. There is a lot of breaking down that happens, and a lot of realizations, and it could be a very bumpy ride in a lot of cases. It's like, imagine you're a caterpillar coming out of your cocoon and being born as a butterfly. Like, so just imagine that struggle and all that discomfort and everything that you're facing going through it. It's hard. It's very hard, because a lot of times in the beginning you also feel very alone in it, and you want to wake up the world, but they're not ready. So people have to do it at their pace. It's just like a light bulb that goes on and suddenly they're like, I'm ready. So that 4D transition is a very transformational time for most people. and it can be very disruptive to your life as you know it. So if you're living a 3D existence and you're fine and you're superficially happy, you just haven't found that really deep happiness, the one that's like in the core of you, where you just it's that overall happiness, that gratitude for being here and having this experience no matter what is thrown at you, because you know that you are here for that experience. That can be really a lot to take in, because now you're changing everything about how you think. So, and how you feel. So, some people cannot handle it. I don't say they can't handle it, but they're not ready for it. And then they actually descend into a deeper three-dimensional existence, and separate themselves from that. And it does happen. I've seen it happen. Not everybody is ready for that. But those who are, they go deeper into the 4D existence. They go deeper into meditation. And the more, it's just like any muscle, the more you exercise your mind, the more you are going to build it up. The more you're going to build up your intuition, the more you trust it. The more you're going to build up your psychic abilities of whatever sort, the more you work on them, and the more you connect with source, with your higher self, the more you meditate. It just, everything becomes stronger. Things become, the realizations just keep pouring in. So this is how you transition from a 4D reality to then a 5D. So what happens with the 5D reality, 5D is when you become literally your own alchemist. You are manifesting things at a high rate. You understand your connection with the energy around you. There's no such thing as hate. Everything is just love in different stages. So at different frequencies, different vibrations, but it is all revolving around love. So you realize this in a 5D state. What also happens in a 5D state, and a lot of times in a 4D as well, is your disconnect from society, your disconnect from the material world. You find that you cannot be in, like, once you get to that 5D place where you're ready for that transition, you cannot be in the city. You cannot be in densely populated areas. It'll be a like total energy vampire for you. You won't be able to, you'll feel like you're suffocating. You need to get out of that. And that is why you hear so much about people that are just going through such ascension that go to the mountains. They feel called to the mountains. They feel pulled to the mountains. Mountains are a higher frequency. It is a higher state of consciousness. So cities are a lower state of consciousness. There's very little nature there. It's all just a mishmash of a lot of hurt, healing people who don't know why they're here, who haven't figured out their purpose, who are confused and living in a three-dimensional reality and don't know why they're not happy. And most are taking antidepressants in a lot of cases. And this is the energy that you're surrounding yourself in when you're in that place. So geographically, it is very important to find a higher state of consciousness on the earth. There are portals everywhere, there's vortexes everywhere, but removing yourself from busy areas like busy cities where they're overpopulated is a very crucial part of ascending to 5D, because it's not possible unless you're a monk living in a very closed in facility there that is surrounded by, in some way, a way of connecting um, deeper within yourself and with source, maybe with some nature around. But really in densely populated areas, that's a killer. So for anybody that's hoping to ascend to a 5D reality. So that's pretty much what that means. To go a little deeper with it, it also is not, it means not operating from a physical standpoint. It's the understanding that you are a soul having a physical experience, and you also have this disconnect from all physical pleasures, all physical material things that are stimulating in the physical world. They mean nothing at this point. The things like sexual desires. You hear about monks that become celibate. So many people, as they raise their consciousness, they start practicing celibacy, and that does happen. That happens a lot, and that becomes a very either non-existent part of your life or just a very small part of it, and it isn't any longer about a physical pleasure, a physical sensation. It is very much about a spiritual coming together, two souls coming together, being as close together as they can in a physical sense. So it's just experiencing that love in a physical reality that you have in a higher state of consciousness. So it's not, it's so, you become so very detached from all those physical pleasures, all those physical stimulations. They no longer matter. It's just about connecting up here, but through this physical experience. And that's the beauty of it. And I hear so many people so often say, well, I'm here to have a physical experience, so I'm going to live that part to the fullest. And it's, you're here to have a physical experience, but to connect the two, to raise your awareness, raise your consciousness through a physical understanding of all that, having physical emotions and experiencing it on a physical level. It's very complex. It's not just having a physical experience and living it all up and doing whatever you can in your physical body. There's no lessons to be learned in that. What is the purpose in that? There isn't any. The point is to come here and do better, do good. You're going to come and you're going to live out your karma, or you're going to live out your dharma. So you want to be of service to others. You want to put good out into the universe. This is all part of a 5D ascension. It's connecting the two. I am living my best life. I am living my deepest truth. I am living my greatest challenges right now in my 5D transition as I work towards that, as I continue to shed and surrender and let more in. That's what's happening right now. And then I can work my way up the mountain physically, literally, metaphorically, in every sense. That is what's happening, and that is how it goes. So, yeah, once you really, it's not really about just, crushing the ego. I mean, we're born, into this reality, and ego is part of something that we need to balance. But once we use our ego as a way of creating the space that we need to allow our spirituality in, to allow source in, to allow our spiritual connection in, that's it's all about creating that balance, using it for the greater good. So once we start to use that ego just to create more material possessions for ourselves, then we become off balance. We miss the point at that point. So yeah, so that's a little, you know, my way of explaining a 5D reality versus 4D versus 3D, and that is solely based on my own personal experience, my own personal transition from 3D, 4D, and then now as I continue to ascend to 5D. I am working on it, and by the time I'm there, you won't be seeing me on here anymore.